Yo, what is up to every single one of you guys who are watching via YouTube, Spotify, listening via Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. Welcome to episode number 7 of the Coffee with Friends podcast.
It's crazy.
We're out here doing it, guys.
It's
out here doing it.
Episode for every day of the week.
That's right. I forgot the number, but we did the math of if we were to continue this trend of dropping an episode every Thursday, I think it was like 33 episodes or something. I don't know.
By the end of the year, yes.
Yeah. And I
But
think it
in
ends,
1 year, it's 52.
and the last episode is on my birthday.
It's on my birthday.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So we're going to do something cool with that. But thank y'all for being here, for joining us this fine evening or morning or night or whatever. You are consuming this podcast. We are glad you're here. And It's been a great run. If you haven't checked out episode 6, hop off this episode and go check that one out.
Sure.
Because that was awesome.
Yeah, it was a good one.
First guest.
Yeah, it was nice. It was a full circle moment for both of us.
Yeah.
For you, big full circle
Oh,
moment.
for sure. Yeah.
I just joined in on the fun.
Yeah, it was awesome though. Went to go shoot it over there in Dallas and stuff. Again, first guest, important guest, and it was really fun. So if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. But just thank you for all the love, all the support on these episodes, for sending us questions and topics and themes or whatever you guys want us to talk about. It's been awesome. We've really been enjoying doing this. And it's been actually a way to keep ourselves accountable and doing something different and creative. We tend to either procrastinate things or just think things and never do things with it.
Or we start them and we're not consistent. We're not consistent with it. I feel like this is the most consistent that we have been.
Oh, absolutely.
In anything, really.
Yeah.
So, but really we have you all to thank for that.
Yes, there you go.
We have all of you to thank for all of that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your support. Thank you for listening and being a part of our community.
Mm-hmm.
I think I always find myself surprised by the people who listen.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
I just can't imagine some people listening to us. Just because I feel like we're young and there are so many other people out there who have so much more wisdom than we do,
absolutely.
Which we'll also be bringing on for questions we have zero insight on or just like small insight, like we don't have a depth in. But really, this is very exciting to have consistently done this, regardless of all of the things that we face. Because I think this week in particular, we have had a lot of issues, a lot of things to troubleshoot. And even right now, we just, I don't know what I did, but I fixed what we were working on. And we just ran with it to figure it out. It might stop recording.
At
some
was
point.
Cameras today, and on
audio
Tuesday
yesterday.
it was audio. And it was just, oh my
atrocious.
gosh, guys. So, but again, we're doing this just so you guys can see it in real time and just understand, just see like the practicality of it. Like things aren't perfect. We're not out here trying
Except
to,
for me.
not here trying to do a perfect podcast. We just want to create a space for people,
For sure.
not only us, but for other people. As Sumi said, we're going to get more guests on to share just what they have to offer for the community. And I think there's so many great people in our lives, in your life, that have really great things to say. So without further ado, we're jumping right into it. Today we'll be talking about how to be a good friend to someone who is hurting. Why are we talking about that? Well, because, again, last episode, big shout out to episode 6, we talked about community. We talked about, creating community, being in community, mental health, all that stuff, and the importance of it. But today we want to talk about how you are actually a huge part of that
Yeah.
for other people.
Yeah.
And how to navigate that well. And I want to be very clear, as Xiaomi prefaced, we are not the experts. We are not these wise beyond our year people. We are just sharing our experiences, what we have learned, how we have failed, and what we are really just in the process of understanding, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
we want you guys to be into the conversation, into the conversation as we're verbally processing, you know. So the importance of that, being a good friend to someone who's hurting, which that's all of us. I think we're all hurting in some way, shape, or form.
And shout out to Amy for hitting us with this question.
This is her question. Great question.
I think it's a great question, especially the one to follow last week's conversation.
Absolutely.
So I definitely think that, yes, you said this is all of us, which is correct. I think it's not always easy to show up for someone who's hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no right or wrong way, by the way. Like, this is just from our experience, what has worked for us, and how we have learned to help our friends in a moment of hurting. So this is an end all be all. Like, you have to do it this way. You know, there are like maybe foundational things that I think we can agree on, but I think
universal truths.
Also, like, we're all different, and the way that Sam would perceive a good friend is a little different to how I would perceive a good friend, or what would help me in a moment of hurt does not help Sam in a moment of hurt. I think we've both learned from each other firsthand that we're different, and therefore just continue your preface that this is not because we know everything.
Because at the end of the day, we're all so different, you know, emotionally speaking. We all deal with the same things, but the way we process and then the way that we react is completely different,
for sure.
And I think that that's what makes this question so nuanced and this conversation so nuanced, because there really is no right or wrong, but there are universal truths that I think we can apply to our lives to help us become, again, the question is how to become a better friend and a good friend to someone who's hurting. And I think, again, shouting out last podcast, if you have a growth mindset and if you're constantly changing and constantly growing, a lot of what you encounter with answering this for yourself will change. And yes, like as Xiaomi said, what's going to work for me is not going to work for her, and vice versa. So again, what we want you guys to do as we are talking through this is to insert yourself into the conversation and almost have an internal dialogue as you're listening to this, and you know, identify, what am I doing that's great, you know, and what am I doing that needs work? Because again, we all need work, and I'll be the first one to say just right off the bat, I am not good at this one. I'm really not. I am not good at being the best person I could be for people who are hurting. I've gotten better, but I still struggle with it. And we're gonna get into why, but in particular for me, like, I struggle with this one because, again, not trying to harken back to that last episode, but like what I shared last episode was, I want people to be healthy and happy. Like that. I want you to be in it. I want you to live your life fullest potential. And I think the detriment of that, the negative part of that, is you rush past people's pain. You rush past people's, trauma and what they're going through, and you try to almost drag them through their issue rather than sitting with them, being present and listening. And those are really the main three things we want you guys to walk away with in this episode, is that there's really three things that encompass being a great friend to someone who's hurting, a family member who's hurting, your relationship, your significant other, whoever you insert, whoever. It's really, there's three main things that are extremely important, extremely helpful. 1, being present. 2, being a good listener. And 3, knowing how to encourage. And knowing how to do those 3 and jump in and out of those 3 at any given time. Because, again, I'll be the first one to admit it, I can tend to not be a great listener and want to just be an encourager and give advice and try to help. When there's moments where I need to just be quiet and listen and allow that person to share what they're going through so that I can then allow myself to be present with them. That's my struggle. That's mine. I struggle to be present. I struggle to be a listener. I want to tend to rush through the issue and say, okay, how can we get better? How can we get through this? And I've had to learn through you, actually. You've been the one that's taught me the most, that there's sometimes where I just got to shut up and just listen to you and just be there and be a sounding board that she can just go off on. And again, everyone's so different, but that is my personal deal. But how about you? What's that look like for you?
You had like points and all of these. I was not expecting you to pull that out of your pocket. But yeah, I think for me, I always want to know where you are. So I don't want to walk into something and think I know what you're needing, because at the end of the day, I don't know what you need. I know that you are in need, but I don't know what you need. I don't know if you want me to just listen or if you want me to help. And I think those are two different things.
Yeah.
So I know the question is how to help your friend when they are hurting. Both of these things help. It just, they're a little different.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of times, and actually I had this happen at work today. Perla came up to us and she was doing Perla. Like a check-in. And this is something I do with my friends as a whole, like when we're like together. But she was like doing like a friend check-in, which is pretty common for where we work. But she was like, and somebody started, I think Peyton started to say something. And she was like, do you want me to just listen or do you want me to help? Yeah. And really those are things that are to me important when like a friend is going through something, because sometimes for me too, like I just want to talk. Like I just want to vent. And sometimes I'm like, I want to vent and I want you to get angry with me. Yeah. I want you to be here with me in this emotion, even if momentarily, even if you may not fully agree, right? I want to meet you where you are. I think that's like what's big for me when somebody I love and care for or somebody I know is hurting. Like I want to meet you where you are. Like I don't want to show up and encourage you if you're not ready for that. Yeah. If you're not prepared to be encouraged, I'm wasting my time. Yeah. And I'm hurting you more. Yeah. Because you already feel unseen. You already feel unheard. And I'm going to come in here and do something that you're not even ready for or wanting. And you're just going to be like, why would I talk to you if you're not even hearing me and listening to what I'm saying? So you're either listening to listen and understand and be there, or you're listening to have an answer. Yeah. And I think that's where you and I are a lot different. But to me, like, that's one of
but I like that you're bringing that points up, because that's actually one of the things I wanted us to talk about a little later. So I'm glad you brought it up. But it's like, ask them what they need. Yeah, I think that's like step one. When you're dealing with a friend, a family member, somebody that you care about, and they're hurting and they're going through something, dealing with something. First, ask them what they need from you. Exactly that. Like, do you want me to vent with you? Do you want me to feel with you? Do you want me to just listen to you? Do you want me to advise you? Like, what do you need? Because
or do you just want me to sit here?
Exactly. Or just be present.
Do you just want to go out and sit in the car?
Forget everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's different.
Yeah. But knowing that, I think asking that, so I think it's twofold here. Sure. This was so, again, nuanced about this, is that you as the friend, you have to ask that. Right. But then you as the friend that is in need to be self-aware and know what you want.
I was gonna say that.
And be bold about it and be honest and be like, hey, like, yo, like, I appreciate, you want to come and like advise me and give me advice. Yeah. Dude, I just want to chill, bro. Like, let's just go hang out. Like, so it's like both ways.
Yeah. I think that has helped me a lot in my friendships. and with you has been like, hey, like I I'm not feeling good, like I'm not in a good headspace, but can we just like go to lunch? And I just want to sit there. And thankfully, you know, like I work in a good space where we're all like hyper aware. You know, like we are maybe too aware of emotions and things we may need and not need. But I know, like, I feel very safe with my friends at work to be like, hey, like, I feel I'm just not in a good headspace.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be alone. And can we just go have lunch?
Yeah.
Which I did this last week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and we just sat there.
Yeah.
And it turned into conversation, and it still turns into things, but it helps you to understand yourself too.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think like if you understand how to find help for yourself, it's easier for you to approach someone or be with someone and help them understand how to also find help, because you're going to ask the questions. What do you need? How can I help? Is it helpful to you that I look for solutions, or is it more helpful to you if we just sit here in silence?
Yeah. And I think that all is wrapped up together and under the umbrella of emotional intelligence. Just that's what it is.
Yeah.
Having emotional intelligence, emotional honesty, and emotional health, because people who are that way ask those questions.
Yeah.
And again, this is where like we just got to be honest with one another, right? You listening, you watching, like as you're hearing this, ask yourself, like, are these questions that I'm asking myself or thinking about? And if they're not, again, those are probably things you should start doing, because I find myself not doing it sometimes, and sometimes I do. But again, that's emotional intelligence and honesty. It's knowing what that person needs and knowing what you need to do. And sometimes that takes, again, like the awareness to say, like, for me, this is very real. Like, had multiple meetings this week with people hanging out, and it's like, I had to look at the situation. Each conversation was different. Each person was different. I'm like, why am I here? Am I here to just be a sounding board? Am I here to offer advice? Am I here to just listen, just be present, to encourage? And like, I have to ask myself these things now, which these, again, were things I didn't ask before. And that's why I was so bad at doing this. And now I've gotten better, and I'm continuing to try to get better and grow in my emotional honesty, intelligence, and health, so that I can look at these people that I care about and actually be a blessing to them and not piss them off more and not make their situation harder. But I think everything that you're saying can be easily wrapped up into that, like just having emotional intelligence and honesty and knowing where you're at, and being, I think it also requires humility too, for you to be like, I think you need this, but it's not what you need, and I'm going to do what you need. And I think I'm going to just be honest. Here's another example.
It's
this weekend.
It's very selfless.
Yeah. Like this weekend, I did that. You know, I usually, when we have conversations and stuff, I'm very much so like, we got to talk about it now and get over it now. And, you know, there's moments where that is correct. And then there's moments where Xiaomi's like, hey, like, I don't want to talk about this right now. Like, we just got into this thing. Like, I think we need to let it breathe. Then let's reconvene. And I struggled with that because I was very much so, I see a fire, put it out. But this weekend, you know, I did the opposite of that, because I was like, there's moments where Xiaomi just needs it to rest, and probably for good reason. And I, you know, just kind of didn't bring it up. And I was like, you know, she's going through something, she's hurting. Like, what do I need to do for her? It's do what she wants, do what she needs. And what I want to do is not that. So I have to surrender that, take that, and be like, all right, we're going to do it your way, because this is important. And again, like, it's hard. That's hard. It's very hard, especially when you think, you know, what you want to do is right.
Especially when you're,
So, you know, again, I think it takes humility. And I think that being a good friend to someone who's hurting requires a level of humility where you need to detach this savior complex and need to realize, hey, I'm just here to do life with you and be with you.
It helps you to check, like, how selfish are you?
Yes.
How selfish are you? How selfless are you? And I am by no means great at it either. There are points where I do struggle because while we are very different, we are both very much alike in wanting to see people succeed.
Oh yeah.
And live their best life. You know,
Yeah.
that's why it's part of like the outro. Like I do always want to see everyone succeed at whatever cost to me.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when people are struggling, I do struggle to be present. But I'm learning a lot more to not, try to find solutions because I am a solution finder.
Yes.
I will find a solution
Yeah.
to anything and everything I possibly can. And so sometimes it's hard because sometimes it's hard to know what to do. It is sometimes hard to know what to do, especially in grieving.
Yeah.
Those are hard. Those are challenging for me because like I don't.
Yeah.
There is nothing I can say that will like change anything, like you're grieving. And we have to allow that, but it can be uncomfortable to be in that space with someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I experienced it firsthand last year, and I talked to Linda, and sometimes she's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say, except for I'm here. And it shows a lot about your character to be able to be uncomfortable with somebody.
Yes, I think that's the hard part.
Comfortably uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think that's the hard part because again, I think the majority of us want our friends and family and people to succeed. So it's like when you do go through a situation with a friend or a family member who's hurting, and it's something like mourning or grieving where nothing you can say can fix anything, you kind of feel useless. Yeah. And you feel like, what the heck? Like, man, I didn't help, and then you start feeling bad because, nothing you can do can fix the situation. And I think that goes to the whole point and the whole concept of like, well, you're not meant to carry people's burdens, and you're not meant to be people's savior. Yeah. And I think that's a big part of you being a good friend to those who are hurting in your life is you, one, understanding like you're not the savior. Yeah. And two, it's not meant for you to carry, and their outcome is not due to you. Yeah. And you need to take that off of your identity and your purpose and your value. Whether your friends are happy or not does not pertain to you. It does not. And I think that's a very big thing that we need to understand because, absolutely. Like when I'm talking with the friends that are like, they're going through something that literally nothing I can do matters or says matters. Yeah, like the first thing I feel is like, dude, that was a waste of time. Like, what did I do? Like, did I help them? Was that even worth it? And you start to spiral because then you put that on your identity and your purpose and your value, and then you carry that burden, and you're not supposed to. And I think knowing that and knowing and being okay, which it's actually a freeing thing to know that you're not the savior and that you shouldn't carry the burden. Like that actually frees you up, because if you live your life feeling that way, the amount of baggage and weight on your shoulders would be unbearable. Yeah. You'd be letting everybody down because it's just not your place. Yeah. So I think that there needs to be a level of knowing to set your boundaries too. And like understanding like, hey, it's okay. It's okay.
And alternatively, your friends might need space.
Absolutely.
So it might not always be about being present and asking. It might just be about letting them do what they need to do, even if to you it doesn't look right. Yeah. Or it's different. You know, that's I think. I know you were talking about how I let some conversations like simmer, and yes, I think I do, but I think it's more with like conflict where I let conversations simmer. I think when it comes to emotion, I'm quick about saying I'm not in a good place, and I want to resolve that emotional with me, while you are, I need time
Yeah.
and space to process these emotions and frustrations I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where you and I are a little bit different. But sometimes space is what's necessary.
Yeah.
And sometimes space could be the thing that you need to recommend
Yeah.
or suggest, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, like, everyone is so different. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
But having, giving people the options, I think, is the key.
Yeah.
Give people the options.
Yeah.
Going back to the whole burdens thing, something I thought of and I wrote down is, don't carry people's burdens, validate them. I think that's a big key.
Good.
Don't carry it, but validate it. And
Yeah.
say, like, it's real. Like, it is real. It's there. I'm sorry, but I'm with you, and walk with them. Because, again, it's what people are looking for is safety.
Yeah.
People are looking for safety. People are looking to be seen, heard, and loved. And a big part of that is validation.
Mm-hmm.
And validating their burden and not trying to carry their burden. Another thing that encompasses is empathy, and knowing the difference between empathy and sympathy. And that's a hard one too, because empathy requires you to know what they have gone through and to live it and to understand it. And, what happens in moments where you don't?
Yeah.
What happens in moments where you really have nothing to say? Like, again, just vulnerability and honesty.
Yeah.
When we were going through what we went through last year, that was rough. It was rough because, again, we never went through it. So for those people in our life that did, like, we couldn't really offer any advice, any value. Even being in their presence was hard because, like, what do you do? But now going through that with, what we went through, we can now do that for those people.
Yeah.
Because we understand. Now, again, you may be asking yourself, cool, great, but, like, again, what if my friend is going through something I've never gone through? I think that is where encouragement and advice goes out the window, and you just got to resort to presence.
Yeah.
Being there and being intentional in that presence. Again, because our default will be to, how are you? Are you good? And try to add and add. It's like, don't. Like, just quiet your soul, pause your soul, and just allow yourself to be a non-anxious presence. I think that's key.
Yeah. I think, like, being a non-anxious presence is important. I see it at work all the time. How you show up is how they'll show up.
Yeah. People match your energy.
Yeah. Like, how they respond is dependent on you. How you react. They're waiting to see how you are. And that's why it's so important to be in a good space to help.
Yeah.
So if you're not in a good space, you can't help.
Yeah.
You can show up, but it's not going to be good for either party.
Yeah.
You're going to feel more weight, and they're not going to have 100% of you. And if you're not in a good place, it's better for you to preserve yourself. I know this sounds selfish. I know this sounds selfish, but it's how they say it's the whole airplane mask thing. Always put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then you can help others. That is true in more ways than just the plane. You can't help somebody if you're struggling. You can try. I think we have both been in a space where we have tried to help others, and we're not in a good space. But we find that we end up worse. And it's not to anyone else's fault. It's just to say that, like, we're not 100% there. And you're giving of yourself, and you're not in a place to give of yourself. And that's okay. Like, it is so okay for you to be like, honestly, like, I can't right now. I'm sorry, but I'm not able to help.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at your time and if you look at your mental health in monetary, like if you convert it over to money, if you have no money and someone's asking you for money, you can't help.
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole, empty cup, overflow.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time. Yeah. It's like you cannot, you can function out of scarcity, but it's just not going to be effective.
Yeah.
Now, I want to be very clear, though. This doesn't mean that the only reason and the only way that you help and are present with people is when you're at your top.
Yes.
Because then now that's being fake.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, again, the importance about the presence and the listening is that is the help. Mm. It's that in and of itself is the remedy, and you don't have to be put all together to be present.
Yeah, for sure.
But again, if you're trying to only help people when you're at your top and you're on the high, then one, is it really authentic and organic? And then two, again, is it what they need? Because some people actually need you to be right there with them. It's the concept that we talk about all the time in community nights and stuff. It's about having those three people, top, bottom, and middle. And the beauty about having the people that are in the middle with you at your level is that it is in real time, and you get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. You're in the trenches with them. And sometimes that's what you got to do. The other thing was that the whole knowing when you're ready. Again, setting the boundaries. We talked about this when we were talking about the third place. Should you be a third place? Like, you should know where you're at.
Yeah, for sure.
I believe that a lot of the reasons why we go into that place is because of emotional burnout.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you can have emotional burnout, or you can jump right into it if you're not ready.
Yeah.
Because I think it happens in two ways. Either you're already in it and you're operating in it, or you jump in and then you just like, boom. It's like the pressure difference is too much. It's like jumping in a 5-foot pool and a 300-foot pool. The pressure hits you. And then now you're operating out of emotional burnout. So you're irritable. You're not really operating from a place of peace. Again, you're operating from a place of anxiety, anxiousness. You're operating from a place of fear. You're operating from a place of, I gotta fix this, I gotta help you, and that's not helpful. So you want to avoid emotional burnout before it ever happens. So I think that's the other big part of like, how do you be a good friend to someone who's hurting, is that know where you're at. Are you even in a position to help? And again, it's like, what is help? Help can be presence. Help can be silence. You don't have to, work out this 5-step plan and show up to their house and be like, I got you, let's get out the mud. Nah, bro, sometimes you got to be in the mud together. And that is enough sometimes.
I have a question.
Go for it.
How do you help a friend who is hurting and has been there a long time, not been able to get out, and it's consistent? So think of someone who is depressed and has not been able to get out of this depression for months, and you show up consistently, meet them where they are, however they need. How do you navigate that?
I think that's a great question. I think we kind of talked about it last episode too with Vince, about the whole, like, when I asked him, like, why did you keep coming when I was a fool, right? It's like, how did you not give up on me? And like that whole, or like, when do you give up on people or XYZ? I think what it comes down to is like, there's, everyone's different and every situation is different and everyone's hurt is different, right? So I think we have to first find out, like, what is the hurt that we're dealing with? Is it something that is external or internal? External by, like, is it something that, due to their circumstance, environment, they had no control? Or is this something that they're doing to themselves? I think we got to start there, because I think that gives us context, right? So it's like, there's grace when it's something that's out of their control, when it's something that like it just is what it is, you know, it's a tragedy that happened, and it's like it is what it is, you know. But if it's a pattern, if it's something that they're doing to themselves, if this is something that has to do with a choice that they're making, I think yes, there's grace, but what about you? Where's grace for you?
Yeah.
Because you got to offer yourself grace before you offer someone else grace. Because how can you give them something you don't have for yourself?
Yeah.
And you have to find out you have to put that boundary and say like, hey, I've shown up for you. I've done everything I can for you. And you're not doing anything with that. I'm going to have to take a pause and I'm going to have to step back. I'm going to have to just hope and pray you figure this out. And that doesn't mean that I'm not present. It doesn't mean that I'm not there. It just, the amount of involvement is now limited.
Yeah.
The amount of involvement has changed.
Yeah.
Because you're not actively showing me that you're doing anything with it or that you want to change. And I think that's where we got to make that decision. And I'm going to just be honest. I'm going to just, snip this real quick and do the other side. When it comes to believers and Christians, we struggle with this really, really heavily. And I think it comes from a place of guilt. And I think that that's a really big deal that we got to address. You should not feel guilt or shame for making that decision and making that boundary.
Okay.
And we run from that because we're like, whoa, but Jesus didn't do that. You're not Jesus, fam. You're not. Yeah, but Jesus, but he also showed restraint. And he also corrected and showed boundaries. Right. So again, I think as believers, we struggle with this because we're like, no, we got to be there. I'm going to keep going. They're going to push me. I'm going to keep pushing back. You're not Jesus. Okay. You're a human being with real emotions, and you are not at the level of emotional intelligence and honesty and strength of Jesus. Okay. This man carried the whole weight of the world on his shoulders. Yeah. You can't do that. You're not built that way.
Yeah.
We're not built to carry those burdens, and there's a reason why. This whole analogy of the yoke that is easy and it is light, like that also means that it doesn't just mean that Jesus comes in and takes your weight. He actually carries you through it, and you don't do jack because you can't. Yeah. Right. I'm not trying to go all biblical and stuff, but like it's, again, like we look at these truths. And I think if we revolve our life around these truths, then I think the answer is very simple. When we deal with people that are going through that stuff, I think it's hard, and it's up to your conviction and the context and the nuance. But I think that when it comes to a point where someone is not wanting to change and actively do something for them, then you're actually hurting yourself. And then it's just a negative feedback loop of you being in an area of scarcity and of lack, and you are not helping anyone that way. That would be my answer.
Okay.
So
I think, I can.
What do you think about that, though?
I think we're both different, but I agree there does have to come a point where you have to establish a boundary because you'll drown. You can either keep swimming or you can drown. But I think like in that situation and in those cases, like, yes, like take a step back, but provide tools.
Yeah. Resources.
Give them the tools. Give them the tools they need.
Exactly.
Because Jesus held restraint. But Jesus also showed us how.
Yeah.
He didn't just be like, no. He told us how, and then he was like, you want it, do it.
Yeah.
And I think that, we're not going to show up to your friend and be like, you want it, do it.
Yeah.
But, hey, just having the conversation, be like, I'm really trying, and I am not sure how much longer I can keep putting all this effort in, but I know that you can do these things.
Yeah.
And these can help you. Like presence doesn't fix everything.
Yeah.
Presence gives security and safety, and presence allows or provides that part where you the right to like help them.
Yeah.
Like, like because now you've shown up, you hold more space.
Yeah, it's the whole like you have to earn your right to speak into
someone's life.
What you just said is also a great principle, and it's the whole if a man is hungry, don't give him a fish, give him a fishing rod. And I love that analogy because again, I think we tend to want to be just, we'll just give you fish.
Sure.
No, like give him a fishing rod and say, you go do this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to give you the tools. And again, there's moments where you do give the fish.
Yeah.
Because what if they're dying on the side of the road and have no
Right.
strength to get up?
Right.
But once you give them the fish, say, here's a fishing rod, here's a net, go fish. And I think that's the importance of the whole resources and being present, but giving them people. Yeah.
I mean, that's my job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We get them out of a crisis, and then we provide tools. Because, I mean, if you're starving, there's no way you can concentrate and focus on anything outside of being hungry.
Yeah.
And it's the same for emotions.
Yeah.
When you're spiraling, I'm not going to be like, here are the tools that you need, the places you need. You're like, that's pointless.
Yeah, I mean, like, you look at what
be gone.
What's needed in that moment.
Yeah. What's absolutely necessary in that moment is, you know, where you will be the most effective.
It's the whole, again, I always forget it. I say it all the time. I need to remember what the name is. But the hierarchy of needs, the triangle.
Yeah, we talk about that at work.
Yeah, so it's like...
I bet you Kaylee and Peyton and Perla
they probably
know exactly the name of it. It's like some weird... It's a weird name. His name is weird.
Yeah.
I'm ask.
But it's like you have to, I think when you're dealing with friends and family or people that you love that are dealing with stuff, like almost look at that triangle and be like, what do they need in this moment? Yeah, like, do they need fish or do they need a rod? Because I think if we give them fish when they need a rod, we're messing up. Or vice versa. If we give them a rod when they need a fish, you're messing up. Again, that goes back to the beginning of the conversation. Self-awareness, emotional intelligence, emotional honesty, and being able to ask a question, and you as the person going through it saying, no, bro, like, I need a rod, or dude, no, I'm starving, I need a fish. But I think we need to understand that, because at the end of the day, that's a huge part of this whole conversation. Again, this is very nuanced. There's a lot of context here that it depends on what the situation is. Like, it really depends. So when you're thinking about this and as you're hearing us talk about this, like, again, insert your situation, and maybe there's a person or multiple people that are coming to your mind right now. But you're like, man, these are people I've really been believing for, really want them to get out of this rut. But think through not what you think they need, but what they really need in the moment. Is this life or death? You know, is it fight or flight? And then attack that from that perspective. Rather than, again, going from the beginning of the conversation, you wanting to interject what you think they need, because you're just going to hurt them more. What is the name?
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
There you go, the hierarchy of needs.
She sent pictures, too.
There it is, guys.
Thanks, Kaylee.
Yes. But I think to start wrapping this up, man, my voice cracked there. Did you hear that? Start wrapping this up. This is wild. Start wrapping this up.
Wrapping.
I want to end off with two things. Obviously, one, check on your people. I think that's like the main takeaway we want to give out. But then hearkening back to a practical takeaway that Xiaomi brought up. I don't remember which episode it was, but the whole...
one or two.
Was it? I think.
It was
I don't know.
one or two. One of the first ones.
But the 8-minute rule.
The 8-minute rule.
Because, again, we were sharing our experiences, sharing our, you know, whatever. But, again, what's tried and true? Those two things. Check on your people.
Yeah.
And the 8-minute rule, which is essentially checking on your people, but that's more of like an activation point.
Well, 8-minute rule is for self.
Yeah.
So not for others. 8-minute rules applies to if you need something.
Yeah. But so you like, so you like wanting to reach out for 8 minutes to someone.
You being in a bad space and just needing 8 minutes of whatever that looks like.
Yeah. So knowing how to utilize that as a tool, again, so that's a tool. So I think, to wrap up, checking in on your people, I know it sounds very elementary. It sounds very like 101. But at the end of the day, if we were better at doing this, then I think that a lot of us would be in a way better place. Because I think if we're being honest, like, we probably don't do that to the extent that we want to. And, you know, I don't really have the answer to why. I think it depends to each person.
Sure.
Maybe, you know, you don't want to reach out because you're afraid of the commitment that comes with that. Because now when you know what's going on with people, you got skin in the game now. Your chips are there. Yeah. So now you gotta, quote unquote, reach out and be available. Sure. Maybe it's you don't have community and no one to reach out to. Or maybe, I don't know, again, like you insert that, but what is the importance of that? And again, wrapping it into community, like putting that into it, which is what we talk about all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think practically what I would say to like wrap things up is like, if you're looking to know, like, okay, so what do I do to help a hurting friend? Show up and meet them where they are. And that's the first step to being the most helpful you can be to somebody who is struggling, who is hurting, who is going through something, is obviously, to like know yourself, know what you can handle at that moment. But show up and meet them where they are. I think if Jesus taught me anything, it's to show up and meet them where they are. Because that is what he did every day. And that opens up so many other doors to a person's life and helps you understand and learn and know them and yourself. But I think in a practical way, it's just show up and meet them where they are.
I love that.
And, in the behind the scenes, pray for your people.
Absolutely.
Like, just pray for them. They're not asking. You don't have to do it in front of them. It's just in your time, in your car, on your drive away from your friend. And it doesn't have to be eloquent and fancy. It can just be God, like, meet them where they are. Like, I'm doing my part to meet them, and I know you'll do your part to meet them. And I think that's the best way to help, to love, and to show someone that you care, is by showing up, meeting them where they are. No judgment, no opinions, no solutions. Just, I'm here. What do you need? And how can I be that? I think that's practically like the best way, in my opinion, to help a friend who is
I mean, choosing to show up. That I love it. I think that's the foundation of it. You said it perfectly. The whole, idea of Jesus's ministry in life was that he showed up for people. I think too, the other thing is get into a rhythm and a discipline of reaching out to people. I know that's something that I have been trying my best to do. I reach out to a group of people every week. Maybe sometimes it's once or twice a week, whether it's a phone call or a text message, and it's a discipline. It's a discipline. Like, it's something I have to tell myself to do. And again, so I would encourage you do that. And then on like a discipline level, like, tell yourself, hey, this week I'm going to reach out to 5 people or 3 people, or this month I'm going to reach out to that one friend that I haven't talked to, XYG, but just like make it a discipline. And then again, lastly, 8-minute rule. If you want to, talk about that real quick.
8-minute rule?
Just explain it for those who don't know.
Really quick, 8-minute rule is kind of like a guideline for yourself. I'm not the origin story. I'm not super sure, but it just basically means if you're in a place that's not good, all it takes is 8 minutes of a listening ear or a person or just presence, really. 8 minutes of presence to create a change in how you may be feeling at that moment. And so just 8 minutes. Just a quick text. Hey, do you got 8 minutes? Do you have 8 minutes to sit on the phone? 8 minutes to FaceTime? 8 minutes to just consistently text? For all those who don't like talking on the phone, I know. So 8 minutes to just be like in a consistent text thread to talk, or honestly nothing. It just,
it's intentionality. It's forced intentionality. You're saying I'm gonna take these 8 minutes, whether it's like you said, phone call or whatever, but I'm going to do this.
I've had people who have shown up for me for just minutes or just or not even shown up, honestly, like just in the space to be with someone can shift what you're thinking, what you're spiraling into. But 8-minute rule, reach out to someone if you need someone, if you're in a dark spot and you're not sure, or just reach out. You have 8 minutes, and 8 minutes is not necessarily a long time. No,
it goes by fast too, you know, so, but so do that. That's a practical thing. And then the last thing I'll say is something that you just said, but I want to end on that note, but prayer. Yeah, really pray. Pray for your people. Pray for yourself, for wisdom, discernment, strength. But pray for your people. Bring them up, you know, to the Lord, and just ask that He moves on their behalf. So, and if that's you listening to this right now and watching this, and you're going through a difficult time, you know, our prayer is that the Lord meets you where you're at right now in this moment, and that you really feel that peace, and that you feel seen, loved, and cared for, not only by us and your community, but by God, and that He's with you and all that. So just hope that this was a good conversation, that you guys got something out of it, and hopefully it was of value and of blessing to you. Love these questions. Keep sending them our way. We'd love to keep answering them, or at least chiming in and giving our 2 cents. So without further ado, hit us with that outro.
Go have fun.
Go have fun.
Live your best life.
Live your very best life.
And go get coffee with friends.
We will see y'all in the next one. Take it easy.